Hi everyone, I'm going to be doing a tutorial today on a specific gun from Destiny. The gun is called Malfeasance. You can download it from here at Destiny STL Generator to get the file from the game. And then today I'm going to do something a little different. I'm going to put it into Blender 2.8. Normally I work in older 2.7.9, but got to move forward at some point. So go ahead and go to File, Import, STL. After you've downloaded it, go to its download location. For me, that's going to be under Weapons, Malfeasance. So first off, the scale is much larger when the view is, so you can hit Shift-C, it'll back it out and zoom it out. So we've got the gun here. Looks pretty okay, but you see these like polygons here. Those tend to look pretty raunchy when you try and 3D print them. So really, this is going to help a lot for those that are 3D printing out there. So this is going to follow my method. There may be better ways to do it. Also, I've never actually done this method in 2.8. I've only ever done it in 2.7.9. So it'll be an interesting experiment. First thing I'd like to do is hit Tab to go into edit mode, and then hit P and break it into separate pieces by loose parts. Right off the bat, there's going to be a kind of skin. Let's see, where is it? It's like there's going to be a layer here somewhere that is not the actual gun, but a skin of gun. You can see it there, but I'm trying to grab just it. I think that's it. I'm hitting G to grab and pull it away, and you see it's like a hollow version of thing. And what that is that's the same bunch of polygons, but it's got a different texture map that has that kind of floral pattern on it. So I'm going to get rid of that. I don't need that. And then I'm going to hit Shift H to hide everything but the piece I want to work on. I can bring it back with Alt H, which selects everything, but Shift H is what I'm going to work on. So I'm going to go back in edit mode with Tab. First thing I notice here is you'll see this is STLs can only store information as triangles, not as quads. So you'll find that when you apply subdivision surface on triangle, you get kind of a weird ripple effect, some unwanted effects. So we want to go to quads. So I'm going to hit A to select all, and then I'm going to hit Alt J. And that's, you see, it got rid of a lot of the triangles for us. We may need to go through and remove some manually. We would do that by selecting edge. I'm going to hit AA to get rid of everything, and click on this edge, and I'm going to hit X to delete, but instead of delete, I'm going to do dissolve edge. You can see that removed it, and that way when I run a smooth over it, actually here, let me undo that. We'll go over here to the modifier tab. We'll add on subdivision surface. 2.8 is very slow for subdivision surfaces for me, so I'm not going to keep it on the whole time, but you'll see there's kind of like a weird ripple effect. Now if I dissolve that edge, we've got it smooth again. Dissolve that edge, and it smooths everything out. The subdivision surfaces works much better on quads than it does on triangles. So I'm actually going to turn off that subdivision surface because I have performance issues with it. I don't know if this is just a bug for everyone in Blender 2.8, but unfortunately it does kind of get in the way. So what we see here is we've got a lot of open faces. So as long as I have my edges selected, I'm going to hit Alt and click on this edge, and it's selected the entire opening there. That doesn't always work, but that's the boundary loop. It's connected the whole loop, and I'm going to hit Control F, which will bring up my face modifiers, and I'm going to do a grid fill. And you see that's filled it in nice for me. It's now become, we're headed towards what you call manifold, right? You want your objects to be manifold when you 3D print, and that means air or watertight, sealed up, no holes to the inside. We're going to do the same thing here. Alt and click, and then Control F and grid fill. And then this one's going to be a little more complicated. Because it rounds a corner, fill can do some weird stuff. So I'm going to hold Shift and select each one of these edges. And I'm going to hit Control E to bring up edges, and I'm going to do a bridge edge loops. Not bridge, but we have this kind of opening here, so I'm going to cut them down the middle. So I hit K for the cut tool, and then I hit Control to lock to the center of each polygon. I'm going to do that across those. You see I got a red line, I hit Enter, it's split them, but it did not combine these two together. So it's kind of there's a little hidden hole there, right, that makes it non-manifold. It's easy to miss stuff like that, but what we want to do is combine those. There's normally a merge. I'm not sure where it is on this one. It's probably around here somewhere. Is that it? No, that's RIP region. Edit, maybe. Yikes! Now we've run into a problem. I don't know how to do that. Merge. So I just right-clicked, and I've got merge vertices, and I'm going to do it. Actually, what I want to do is select my point first and select the original point second, and then I'm going to right-click and say merge at last. This is the last one I picked, so that way it's the original geometry. And then I've got this one last, I'm going to switch back to edges. Got this one last hole here, and I can hit Control F and say grid fill. Now, this guy, oh, no, it wasn't the last one. Look at that. Got another one right here. So, looking at this geometry, I want this a certain way. And, you know, you may want it a different way. And that's fine. I mean, there's going to be a little bit of interpretation because these are low polygon models where they bake on normals and stuff to make them use normal maps to make them look really have a lot, make them look like they have a lot more detail than they actually do. So I'm going to go into vertex mode. I'm going to click on that little vertex, and then I'm going to hit GG, which is grab and stick to an axis. So it's sticking to this axis here, and I'm going to hold Alt. And I'm just going to pull it down so that I've got a square. That corner squared off for me. Now I should be able to, and I didn't have to do that. That's preference. So I hit Alt. I've got that boundary again. I hit Control F and grid fill, and I filled in. That's just a matter of preference that I pulled that down. That's not necessary. So I can come up here, and I think it's one of these, maybe. No. It's I'm not sure. I'm sure it's in here somewhere. I'll find it at some point. But in the meantime, I can view the see-through model here, and if I hit A to select all, and then I go up here. Oh, there, it's not there. I'm not sure where the select menu is anymore. Could be select. So I come up here, I hit select, and then I say boundary loop, which used to be in here somewhere. Well, I got non-manifold now. It looks like it selected nothing. Select loops. There we go. Select loops, and then we'll select boundary loop, and it selected nothing. So this is a nice sealed up object, which is good. That's what we wanted. But now that it's sealed up, I want to mess that up. I'm going to, oh, look at that. The whole time I've been working in perspective. So I'd like to work on orthogonal view. Right now it's in perspective. If you hit 5 on your numpad, it'll move it into orthographic. You can also do that from up here, view, perspective, orthographic. And then I'm going to hit 1, nope, I'm going to hit 3 on my numpad to view it from the front. And I can see this object. I'm going to select the vertexes, and I'm going to hold Control so I can draw a box. It didn't select anything. Not sure why that is. Maybe I don't want to hold Control. I just want to draw a box. Draw a box, and then I'm going to hit X or delete, and I'm going to delete those vertexes. Now, it looks like it didn't get all the vertexes I wanted. So I'm going to grab the rest of them. The idea is I'm cutting it completely in half, And not all models you can do that on. I happen to notice that this model had a nice seam running all down through the middle, so it's pretty easy. And I'm going to add a modifier over here on our modifier gear tab again, and I'm going to add mirror. And it defaults to X. This one I want to mirror across Y. I want to turn on clipping, and I want to make sure merge is set. So now if I take it out of wireframe mode and put it back into solid mode, and I go to edit mode, you see it's nice and solid now. What's nice is also, since I already have the subdivider on, I want to move that up with this arrow, or I could just remove subdivision. I'm just going to move it up, and then I'm actually going to collapse it because I don't need to look at it very much. It should be pretty solid. I can now turn on visibility of subdivision surfaces and see it's rounded everything out. Nice solid looking model there, but not the way we want it. So now changes I make to one side will happen to the other, which is important when we are doing a lot of these edges, because we're going to grab edges by clicking on them and then holding control to our destination path, and I've selected all those edges, right? And I can continue to do that around corners, and the idea is I'm going to sharpen up all these edges. So I'm selecting them all to make that one complete loop. Oops, complete loop. And I just held control and clicked all the way around. The colors are a little harder to see in 2.8, I think. But now I can hit Shift E, which means add an edge crease. And I significantly increase that edge by dragging away from the point. And you can see it turned hot pink. Now I'll go out of edit mode and I'll turn on subdivision surfaces, and you'll see it's added kind of an edge to that, where the other ones are a little more rounded. See, that edge would be right here on there. It's right there. So the tediousness comes from having to do that for all of them, and on this particular model I think it requires quite a bit. You can hold shift to add one edge. Also, I'm going to turn off this mirror modifier real quick so that I can see what I'm doing. You can hold shift to add a single edge, or hold control to draw to the next point. I don't want to select that edge, so I'm going to hold shift and unselect it. The inside edges are going to meet just fine. I'm not worried about those. But so hold shift, hold control, shift and clicked that, hold control. I've selected that whole edge. I can keep going all the way around, so the whole front is selected there. And then I also know this one I want selected. Oh, it got unselected somehow. And you can just keep going and select as much as you want. Zooming in and out with the mouse wheel, and then Shift E again to bring that edge to a harder edge. It's called an edge crease, I think. If you hit Control E, you'll see it brings it up, and Shift E is edge crease. You can also mark them as sharp if you're having different things, but that's just a visual thing. Actually marking these as an edge crease changes the way the subdivision surface modifier works. So we'll get out of edit mode, and you'll see now there's this nice sharp edge here instead of a round smooth edge on it, which is what we want. And you gotta kind of have to go through the whole gun, and you'll see it gets more and more solid as I pull it away. It's kind of there's some lag when I use this modifier. I don't know why. It doesn't happen in 2.7.9, but that's okay. I could always turn it off. In this particular case, I'm going to leave it on. So kind of hard to see this edge right here, but now I've got it, and I can start drawing, holding control to select that edge. You can also try Alt, Control and Alt, I think, at the same time. Oops, yeah, see, that grabbed an edge loop I didn't want. And just get used to holding that control, and you can control click, 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 click while holding down control. And if one of your clicks doesn't go right, you just hit, like if I clicked up here, I just, instead of clicking with my mouse, I hit Z, and it undoes my last selection, and I can just keep going. That's handy to me. Might be handy to you also. So once you've got it all selected, like I didn't actually need that edge, I'm going to hit Shift E. You can also hit Shift R, I think, in the older one, and that would repeat the same as the last action, which would make it, it would do the same thing we just did over and over again, which is add the edge crease. So I'll hit Shift R this time. Maybe it's Control R. Control R? No, that's edge loop. I'm not sure. Ignore that last part I said. It's not true, apparently. And I'm just going and going and going. And probably I'll go ahead and finish up this part of the gun and then give you, we'll go through this whole part and then I'll show maybe some other parts of the gun. The idea is you're just going around figuring out what edges are supposed to be solid and what edges are not supposed to be solid or should have a round edge to them. It really wants to grab that one. I don't know why, so I'll leave it that way. You see it starts to take on the look we want, but not low res anymore. This is now nice and smooth instead of being broken up by polygons, which actually I can show you. See, it's got some hard edges. When you go to 3D print that, it's definitely worth it. And again, the importance of doing that mirror means I didn't have to select those edges on both sides. I only had to select it on one side. Not all objects are symmetrical, so you kind of have to get used to like finding out which ones you can do that on, and really just playing with the tools. They're not that complicated. They can be tedious, I think, is the biggest problem for a lot of people. Well, or maybe it's just like we got to lower the barrier and say, hey, look, this isn't that hard. I'll walk you through step by step. Again, I'm just holding Control and clicking around, and then hitting Shift E. And I've gotten very fast at that while working on stuff like this. So I select that edge, I hold Control, and I can go all the way up here. I think I tend to click more than I need to. I'm not sure why. See, I didn't like that. But I'm turning all these edges pink, so that way when that subdivision surface modifier knows that that is a good solid edge, it wants to bring all the way out too. And the geometry is getting smoother and smoother and smoother as I go, and it's nice because you can, if you keep the modifier on, because you can see your progress more readily. I think, yeah, so these edges are all supposed to be sharp, and I'm just zooming in and out with my mouse wheel. Now see, what it needs right here is a hard edge in the corner, and you can't see the corner when you've got the modifier on, so I'll toggle it off and you can see, and I can bring that sharper and then toggle it back on, and you see that's got a much nicer edge to it. It does do some weird stuff every so often, and when it comes to 3D printing, you know, I'd take the weird stuff over the low poly stuff, and also you can increase the number. I'm not sure what this quality thing is. Might matter. I'm not sure. That wasn't in 729 or 279. But you can increase the number of iterations it's smoothing it by, and if you see any squares, any sticking out polygons that you're like, boy, I could really use that to be a lot smoother. Or you can keep it pretty low. That's only one iteration of smoothing, but it gives you an idea of what your model is going to look like in terms of what's going to get smoothed and what isn't. If you're that doesn't look right. There we go. If your computer can't keep up. Apparently like mine can, although mine's pretty heavy rig, so I'm not sure why I'm having issues. And also you can see got more edges I can clean up here to make squares. Quads are always better than triangles for subdivision surface. So I know I said that earlier, but I figure it bears repeating because it's true. And this video may seem it's a little boring for me to try and figure out what I'm supposed to be explaining, so sorry if it's boring, but you know, sometimes cleaning up these models just is boring. Which is okay, because the end result makes it worth it. Now see, those are all triangles in there, so I will turn off the subdivision view and say, okay, what can I fix about this? A lot of these look pretty bad. I'm not sure why those are so triangulated when they don't need to be, but it prints in a spot that's not too bad. You know, you don't have to fix it. You can increase the number of iterations, and look, oh, you kind of hardly notice. Now they are going to show up in 3D printing, as I learned when I did kind of one of my first smooth outs with Cade 6. Oh boy, did those patterns show up. But I didn't increase my subdivision probably as high as I could. But we're just kind of working to figure out which edges we want really to stand out. And then once we've got them, we're adding that crease. Then you have to also keep in mind that some of these parts are supposed to fit together, so you want them to, you got to watch what the opposing face is on the other parts of the gun. Just go over it and give it a good check at the end and make sure you've got everything where you want it. And a lot of times it's just feeling, right? You just, well, I feel like this goes here, I feel like this goes here, so I'll sharpen this. If it's wrong, it's okay. Everything's fine. And you get used to turning on and off, either keeping it on or keeping it off, but really looking for those edges that you want to sharpen up. Oh, I don't need that one. And then see, that looks, still looks okay. I mean, you can 3D print this stuff and put a bunch of putty on it and sand it and whatever, or you can smooth out the parts you want, smooth out first, which I think really saves a lot of time in the long run. Now we'll hit Alt-H, and you'll see, especially standing against the rest of the gun, boy, that's a lot higher resolution. I think the next part I'd like to do is these kind of cloth grips. I'm going to put them all together. I don't want to do too much work on them, but I'm going to grab them. I think I have all of them. Are they missing? I didn't get that one. There we go. Looks like one I'm missing too. Maybe that one. Yeah, there we go. So you grab up all those things, and then oh, there's another one. Nope, that was the grip. I don't want that. So I'm going to hit Alt-H again, or sorry, Shift-H again. It hides everything but these wraps. Now the thing about these wraps is they are just polygons. They have no volume whatsoever. I'm going to join these together by right-clicking and oh, it does have a join option, but you have to have one selected. So right-click, join. They're all one, and I can apply the subdivision surface modifier, and you can see it's got those weird ripples in it. Now I could just increase it, but one thing we didn't do to this part of the model is do the automatic removal of the triangulated faces. So we see a ton of triangles in here, and just hitting A to select all and hitting Alt-J, we've you can see most of these have now turned into squares. We could go and find the individuals, but I don't think it even needs it. So we'll turn back on that view. See, look how much better that looks, and increase it one more. But the problem is they have no volume. They're going to be considered non-manifold. So we're going to apply the other modifier called solidify, and we're going to increase its thickness and make it nice and solid. Now, oh, you see it started coming through its own face. Hold on a second, we don't want that. Back it up a little bit. Alright, they now have some volume to them, and if we want to Boolean them together later on, they'll have that solidness. Now, for 3D printing, you may want to remove these because you may want to put on your own cloth wraps. But that's the most I would do with this one. I probably wouldn't spend too long. I mean, you could probably go through and fix these up by kind of an interesting way to do it, I guess, is adding in cut with K, and then cut with K. And now I've got a square, so I've removed some of the triangulation here, although that one, I mean, it depends on how far you want to get into it, I guess, because I could separate each one of these out separately, and then I could draw a cut line down through here, and then I'd have two squares, and I could dissolve those, or I could just dissolve it like that. Put a cut here with the K button again, and keep dissolving edges until I get down to the least amount of squares or triangles that I have that I want. Again, it's just a matter of how much you want to do with it. Alt H again. Last we have this kind of bone grip. I'm going to select it and hit Shift H. It looks solid already. So a lot of triangles. So we hit A, Alt J, and there's probably some settings in there somewhere you can adjust to make it look more or less triangulated. Like me, I'd probably do that, and then dissolve all of these. Now I got two squares there. It depends on how much effort you want to put into it. And then we'll apply that subdivision surface, increase it a couple of times, maybe even more than that, because we're still getting squares up here, but you know, it's like already that looks, youch, so much better. So much better. Once you've got them all joined up, everything starts to really look smooth. Grab this piece. You'll find that the geometry has some big holes in it sometimes, so you hit Alt, select that. We've got this big hole here. I'm going to switch over into wireframe mode, and I'm going to view it from straight on, and then I'm going to hit E. Now that's a free extrude from that edge that I have selected, but I'm going to lock it to the X-axis by hitting X, and now it's locked in, and I can move it wherever I want, right? So that I can add this kind of this chamber that holds the round, right? Quick opportunity for us to hit Shift E and crease that edge, and then we're going to hit Control F, and we're going to do a grid fill. So now that is we have a solid object now. One thing I didn't do is hit Alt J and detriangulate it, right? Let's put it back to solid view, and you can see now it's nice and solid. We still want to, I probably should have solidified this edge. It's probably not going to select everything this time. Okay, make that solid. Gonna go through this. Ooh. Oh, I was holding Shift instead of Control. I'm gonna hold Control and just get that whole loop there. That one's pink now. And then I'm going to do the same thing on this side. I'm going to see how much I can grab with Alt. Not much, because this one has some weird triangle faces over here. But that's okay. And I'm just going to select my way through it. Now I could cut this one in half, because it has a seam running down the middle. And do that mirror modifier. Oh, see, look. Sometimes when you use Control to auto-complete a path, it tries to grab the shortest path, so it doesn't always grab the edges you want. Alright. So now this kind of loose choppy looking thing we can add subdivision surfaces and increase it, and now it's nice and smooth. So smooth, ready for action. I think there's probably, I feel like there's like a little edge right here that shows up in the model, kind of like a little lip. You know, that's up to you. It's preferences. I feel like it's there, so I'm going to put it there. You know, slowly this gun is getting more and more smooth, right? I didn't actually finish smoothing this out. But once you've gotten everything so, oh my gosh, I only have half a gun there. Turn that back on. There we go. Once you've got it all smooth like you like it, you can boolean the pieces together. I'll probably do another video on booleening and like combining things and subtracting things and deciding what parts to print how a little later. But for now, feel free to keep working on it. Again, we're gonna select this and hit Shift H, and gonna hide that mirror modifier. Hit Tab to go into edit mode, and just keep working on these edges to make it look the way I want it to look, right? And it might, some things are kind of hard to get them to come out the way you think they should in the video game. It helps to have reference photos up so that you know what you're looking at. See, this whole edge needs to happen. I think we're getting close to having all the edges completed. Let's turn on this view again. There's something weird going on right here. I need to fix that. Nope, not that button. This button. There we go. Ah, okay, I didn't complete this one. Yeah, it looks like it goes right up to here, maybe? Yeah, right up to there. And there's more triangles there we could probably get rid of to make these into squares. That's... sorry, not squares, quads. Quads is the term we want to use. If something looks like you can combine two triangles also, it's not always a good idea. If it doesn't make us kind of a square shape, then like I could remove this and it would have four sides, but it would still be a triangle shape. It will look better than a triangle, for sure, but it won't... It does some weird things, we'll just put it that way, like when it tries to turn corners to make triangles into squares. Like this part looks crazy right here. What I would probably do is just add in a cut right to the edge, and then let's see, dissolve these, dissolve that. I might add in I probably wouldn't add in a cut right there. But it also depends on how much detail you're gonna crank up the subdivide to, and whether or not it's something that shows. You know, the end product is what you want to put into it, I guess. But like, if you're gonna be offering it to somebody who's really gonna nitpick about that stuff, then probably go ahead and do it. But if it's just for you and it doesn't bother you, then oops, that is not the one. Then there's no worries. I mean, again, you're just trying to save time for finishing it at the end, like when you go to finish your prop. Here, I'll probably do that. Whoa, that did some weird stuff. I don't want to do that. I'm hitting K to bring up that cut, and then I'm holding control to get it to stick to the edges there. So just so I can dissolve that, and that's a square. Yeah, I like that slightly better. I don't know why. It's not always, so look, there's a whole top portion of it too. these probably need that. I didn't dissolve the right edge there. That's the one I wanted. And going through and finding which ones you can dissolve really helps. You know, you may find more and more edges that you want to clean up. I usually find that as I'm going back through the second time, I find all the stuff that I didn't do the first time that I probably should have. Whoa, see, I grabbed the wrong edge there. But for the most part, I'd probably be ready right here. I mean, there is definitely some geometry up here I want to sharpen out. It looks like it maybe goes like, oh, what the heck just happened? There we go. Like that. Like this is some kind of lip here, I think. Let's look at it. Oh, that did something weird. Yeah, I don't think I like that. So, and sometimes it just doesn't look the way you think it should. For sure, that is maybe if I yeah, that's weird. Oh, that looks a little better. Found another edge. Maybe that's supposed to go down the length of the gun. Can't really tell. I definitely am not feeling any of that stuff, so I'm just going to undo all of that. I'm not sure what I want to do with that yet. I feel like that's supposed to be there. Maybe this edge. Maybe that's what I needed to do. Looks kind of weird. I'm not sure how I feel about that. I think it has something to do with this. I don't feel like that should be there. Let's see what it looks like complete. Maybe. Let's unhide everything. Okay, maybe. It looks okay. It looks okay. I'd need to bring up some reference photos and look at it. Like I said, just Alt-J. Alt-J. And for the most part, if it doesn't have any hard edges, you can just do the subdivision surface modifier to each one of them. And crank it up. That definitely is supposed to have some like angles on it that are not showing up, and this guy is for sure supposed to have sharp angles on it, so he's going to take some work. And there's, you know, the bullet carriage, or I mean whatever you call that thing that holds all the rounds. But overall, we're getting to where we want to be. Again, you can just keep working on it, tweaking on it, but at some point you're going to want to print it. And I'll get into Boolean and cutting these up for printing on the next video. All right, thanks guys.